Hi everyone, I'm Paige Abbott, registered psychologist at Sana Psychological. Thank you so much for joining me for part 3 of my Practical Steps series. If you haven't yet checked out steps 1 and 2, I would definitely encourage you to watch those videos before you jump into number 3, because part number 3, we're really starting to step into the active action as well as starting to get into the refinement phase. So if you haven't built that platform of health for yourself based on the first 2 videos, then you might find this one a bit challenging as well as potentially a bit confusing. So I would encourage you to take a few minutes to jump back, plan and execute some of those initial steps before you get to this video on what I'm calling establishing boundaries. Now, that might be a little bit confusing off the bat, because when we think of boundaries, we start to think of communication in relationships. And that's part of what I mean, but I'm definitely meaning boundaries in a much broader sense here. Essentially, what we're going to be talking about today is you in your journey of change, whatever your goal happens to be, whether it's emotional, related to mental health, related to relationships, related to physical health, education, other area of personal development, whatever it happens to be. The fact of the matter is that certain things in your life will support you in moving towards those goals, and other things not so much, not going to be so helpful to you. And that's really what I'm meaning by establishing boundaries, is starting to really look at what are the people, the relationships, the topics of conversation, the activities, the things, the environments, everything that supports you in moving towards the goals that you have of healthy living. And then also starting to look at what are those same things that are kind of holding you back, or that may be interfering with moving towards those goals. And that's what I was meaning earlier, that this is really a heavy action section of personal development, as well as a refinement step, because this is not something that you're going to have total clarity on at the end of this video. It's not something you're going to have total clarity on after you do some of the exercises that I suggest. It is something that you're going to need to continue to explore in your own life and refine over time, because it is only with practice and with experience and with living that we start to determine what's working for us and what isn't. And then the next step is actually taking action around that, which can obviously be quite challenging, because sometimes the things that we identify are not serving us, we don't want to let them go. So saying goodbye or saying I'm going to pause this for a period of time can be really challenging. So let's start jumping into the practical side of this. What I would strongly encourage you to do, either right after this video or at some point in the near future, is to sit down with yourself. Make sure that you have about 15 to 20 minutes available to you, where it can be just you in a quiet and reflective space and environment, and take some time to map out the following. So essentially we're going to be doing 3 columns, 3 pages, 3 lists, however you want to diagram it, however you want to envision it. You can make it your own in this regard. But the 3 categories that we're looking at here are the things that are not serving you, the things that are serving and supporting you, and the question mark, the parts where you're just not sure whether it's serving you or not. So the first category are those things that are not serving you. And again, I want this to be as specific as possible. So we are talking specific people, specific topics of conversation, specific environments, specific behaviors, specific substances, foods, activities, things that you recognize when you engage with them and or consume them are not helping you in the progression of health and towards whatever goal you have for yourself at this point in time. So if that's, for example, junk food, you recognize that the consumption of junk food is not supporting you in the goals that you're wanting to achieve, then you can put junk food into that list or that column of the things that are not supporting you. Now, just leaving it as that general category of junk food may serve you well, but for some people, they may find that they struggle with that because there probably are certain types of junk food within that general category that are more triggering and bring more vulnerability than others. So what you may want to do is with general categories like that, take some time to be quite specific. So what are the specific foods within that category that you know come with the greatest degree of risk for you? So perhaps you identify, it's certain types of baked goods or certain types of chips that you find you struggle with the most. Those would then go in the column that can feel more manageable for people when they think about having boundaries and stepping away from a couple of things as opposed to this whole huge category, which can feel really overwhelming and really daunting. So being quite specific can make things feel a bit more manageable and can also help you in developing and refining your action plan that we talked about in especially part 1 of the Practical Steps series. We'll jump to the other category, which is the things that are supporting you. So these are the things that when you engage with them, when you consume them, when you're with them, they really are supporting you in your goals. You can feel rejuvenated, you can feel supported, you know that this is helping you to move in the direction that you want to go. So obviously these are the things that you want to bring into your schedule and to your life as much as possible. These are the things that are your journey support tools. You want them, and you want them as much as possible. So in identifying these, this helps you to keep refining phase 1 of the Practical Steps series, building that framework, which, as I said, is going to be an evolving process. So you're going to now look back at what are the things that I want to build in more as I move forward. And so if you notice that, there was a particular relationship that I hadn't built in to my initial plan, now you can go back and look at having more of that in your life and engaging with that person in that relationship a bit more because that's a supportive tool. The question marks are the areas where you're not quite sure. Probably they don't support you in your journey, so chances are they're not going to move to the kind of outer list, that list of things that support you in your journey, but they may. It may be a new friendship or a new relationship where you're not quite sure if it's going to be supportive or not. But as you get to know that person, you may start to realize, actually, they are going to be an important person in my journey. And so they become one of those people and those tools that you realize are helpful for you. Or you may start to realize that, nope, this is something that definitely is not supporting me in my journey. And so it gets moved into that category where boundaries need to happen. And that's really what I'm meaning by boundaries, is essentially they're more boundaries with yourself. Knowing what you need to move towards. So that's also part of boundaries, is what I need to move towards and have in my life and what I need to move away from. And usually the letting go part, moving away from something, is more challenging for people than moving towards. Not always. Both can bring up a lot of feeling. And so that's something else I would encourage you to really pay attention to as you move forward in your journey, is the feelings. What is it feeling like for you to even identify that these things are not helpful or that these other things are helpful? There might be feelings of sadness, loss, grief, anger, resentment, happiness, joy, excitement, determination. There could be a whole bunch of feelings, and it's important to deal with those along the way so that you're processing and releasing them and being able to follow the process through step by step. You may also want to take some time to reflect on how you feel as you start to take action on some of these things. Please don't do this all at once. You need to look at stepping back from certain things, kind of one or a couple of things at a time. Same thing with the incorporation of brand new things. You don't want to overwhelm the system. You want to bring in kind of a new thing at a time, really start to feel comfortable with it, and then add on the next thing. We don't want to burn out. We don't want to overwhelm the system. Human beings, as a generality, don't really respond to dramatic change very well. So the more gradual that you can make this for yourself, the better. And with the letting go, paying attention to those feelings that come up as you start to move away from something, and just noticing the challenges that come up in doing that. Your brain will fight you on this. There's a part of your brain that's liked whatever it was that you're trying to move away from. That part got a dopamine hit, might have got some other kind of feel-good neurotransmitters in there, and so it will be very reluctant to let go of something, even if you are very eager to say goodbye. So appreciating those internal roadblocks can also help you to remind yourself that, nope, this is my goal, this is something I'm wanting to move away from. And so with support, with accountability, with people you can talk to about this, hopefully that will keep you going in that direction of letting go. So what do we mean by establishing boundaries? Establishing boundaries with your own brain, with your own thinking, and with the behaviors and the people and the relationships that are in your life. Moving towards setting up a foundation and a lifestyle that is where you want to be, where you feel comfortable, where you feel like yourself, and moving away from a lifestyle where you don't feel healthy, you feel sluggish, and you don't feel that you can be you. I do hope you're finding value and benefit in the Practical Steps series. This might be something that you have to revisit many, many times, and you can keep coming back to this video, keep coming back to your lists over and over again. That's where I was saying we're moving into the refinement phase here. So these things will take you some time to start to really identify and feel comfortable with. Start where you can, start as you're able to. Try not to put too much pressure on yourself. This is just another step in your journey of continual growth and change. And I do want to remind people that if you are really struggling with your mental and emotional health, that self-help tools and videos are great resources. But if you are really struggling, please do consult with a healthcare provider in your area to ensure that you're getting proper assessment and treatment for whatever is going on in your lives. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you consider subscribing to the channel and getting any notifications for future videos. I do still have part 4 and part 5 of the Practical Steps series upcoming, so I look forward to sharing those with you. Take care.